Yoda's species has 3 known members in canon. Every one of them is Force-sensitive, and the 2 who reached adulthood became among the most powerful Jedi in galactic history. We don't know their homeworld, we don't know their history, and in a galaxy where Force-sensitives are rare enough that an entire empire was built to hunt them down, this species produces them as a baseline. But here is the detail that changes everything. Not a single member of this species has ever fallen to the dark side, and this demands an explanation. What is it about this species that produces beings born already halfway inside the Force? We're examining 5 angles, and one of them is not what you'd expect. It has nothing to do with midichlorians, and everything to do with why the dark side may have never even had a chance with this species to begin with. One thing I want to flag early: Grogu, 50 years old, still an infant by his species standards, was already doing things that trained Jedi Masters spent lifetimes learning. 3 confirmed members: Yoda, Yaddle, Grogu. We'll come back to what Grogu's abilities actually reveal, but first, we need the biology. Yoda was approximately 900 years old when he died. Grogu, born in 41 BBY, 50 years old during The Mandalorian, was still a toddler. This species has roughly the same developmental fraction as humans, but 10 times the lifespan. And according to a 2003 Legends story, Yoda didn't begin formal Jedi training until around 100 years of age. Most human Jedi completed training by their late teens. Yoda's species doesn't even reach that threshold for a century. And Grogu's abilities within that window? Entirely instinctive. Healing, telekinesis, emotional force response, none of it taught. What looks like biological slowness is actually an extended formative window, a century during which the nervous system calibrates against the Force, far beyond anything a short-lived species could achieve. The slowness is not a limitation, it is the mechanism. And this leads directly to a question the lore almost never asks out loud. Why would longer development translate into greater Force attunement? And is there any lore basis for this, or is it just pattern matching? In Revenge of the Sith, Yoda tells Obi-Wan that Qui-Gon had discovered the path to retaining consciousness after death, a communion with the living Force that the Jedi Order had, for centuries, lost. And in the Clone Wars, Season 6, Yoda travels to Moraband and communes with deceased Jedi spirits at a depth no other living character in canon is shown to match. He doesn't wield the Force, he listens to it. And what the lore reveals isn't just that Yoda is Force powerful in a quantitative sense, it's that his relationship with the living Force is qualitatively different. Not technical mastery, fluency. And fluency, unlike mastery, cannot be taught. A species spending a century in formative development doesn't just accumulate Force sensitivity, it calibrates to it. By the time Yoda spoke his first formal lesson, he had already been listening for 100 years. So we have the biology, we have the Force mechanics, but here is what makes this species truly unsettling. Not just what they are, but what the galactic record has deliberately chosen not to say about them. Across all of Star Wars, canon and legends, how many members of this species can actually be confirmed? Canon: Yoda, Yaddle, Grogu. Legends adds at least one more: Vandar Tokare, Jedi Master on the Dantooine Enclave Council, central figure in Knights of the Old Republic. Grogu survived Order 66 as a youngling, rescued from the Jedi Temple by Jedi Master Kelleran Beck, as confirmed in the Bad Batch. And yet, no homeworld, no cultural record, no collective history for a species whose members live close to a millennium. Either extraordinarily rare, extraordinarily reclusive, or deliberately kept invisible. George Lucas reportedly never wanted the species explained, which makes you wonder what he was protecting. A species with near millennial lifespans and universal Force sensitivity would be too dangerous to expose. The archive has nothing on them, because it was never supposed to. But the archive's silence only tells us what the galaxy doesn't know. And you remember the force healing I flagged at the very start? Here's what it actually reveals. With no instruction, in a moment of pure instinct, Grogu healed a critical wound in Greef Karga, cellular-level biological regeneration, at 50 years old, in a back-alley clinic on a hostile planet, one of the rarest documented abilities in the entire Order. Yoda, nearly 9 centuries old, was still a student, deepening his communion with the Force on Dagobah until Luke arrived. What he achieved: full Force Ghost manifestation, a technique Qui-Gon had pioneered but for decades could not himself complete. I cannot name another character in any franchise who earns that sentence and means it. Not raw power, precision engagement with the living Force. Grogu heals, Yoda listens, at a depth no other Jedi can replicate. This species exists inside the Force the way someone who has spoken a language from birth hears the rhythm in everything around them. Grogu healed before he trained. Yoda heard the dead. Neither ability was the product of instruction. Both were baseline, the default expression of a species already fluent in the living Force. That explains the power, but it doesn't explain this. Not a single member of this species has ever turned to the dark side. In 900 years of galactic history, not one. The reason why reframes everything. The question is not whether this is true. The question is why, and what the answer reveals about the nature of the dark side itself. The dark side operates through 3 vectors: fear of loss, the drive to dominate, severing empathy. Every major fall in canon follows this. Anakin's fear of losing Padme, Palpatine's will to control, Dooku's disillusionment into contempt. This species appears resistant to all 3. Yaddle, Jedi Master, member of the High Council, discovered Dooku's turn and was killed for it in Tales of the Jedi. She did not fall, she was eliminated. A being who spends 9 centuries watching others live and die develops a relationship with impermanence that the dark side's central promise, power over loss, control over death, cannot reach. We think of dark side resistance as moral willpower, but what if this species never takes the test? The dark side offered Anakin, save the person you love most. Yoda watched beings he loved die for 9 centuries, and it made him quieter, not hungrier. The offer doesn't land the same way on a species built like that. The answer is 0 non-Force sensitives, 0 dark side members, 2 zeros pointing in the same direction. This may not be a species that resists the dark side. This may be a species for whom the dark side was never a coherent option, because the thing the dark side requires you to break is the same thing that makes them what they are. You cannot turn a river against water. And if that is true, it means Yoda's power was never really about strength at all. It was about what he could never lose. If this is the kind of deep dive you're here for, hit like and subscribe. George Lucas designed Yoda to subvert every visual expectation of power. Small, slow, ancient, moving with a cane. He wanted the audience to be wrong about what strength looks like. But the lore suggests something deeper. For this species, power in the Force is not something you acquire. It's something you become over centuries, through a window no other species can replicate. Every other species produces beings who fall. This one never has. It may not occupy an extreme point on the spectrum everyone else shares. It may be something outside that spectrum entirely. And Grogu, 50 years old, already healing the dying, is only at the beginning. For me, that is the most compelling open question in Star Wars. What does he become in 9 centuries more, raised with Mandalorian instincts alongside Jedi attunement? Lucas kept the species nameless deliberately. A name makes them a fact. A mystery makes them a question. And the question, it turns out, is the most interesting thing about them.